Here at the coin shop, we literally can't keep these coins in stock. People love the Mercury dime. 90% constitutional silver, minted from 1916 to 1945. Everybody knows about these coins, but there's some things that you might not know that I'm going to show you in this video because there's so many rolls being sold and we buy so much, we don't get a chance to look at these coins really close. And I'm sure people who have bought so many rolls off of us have not checked their coins either. So you need to watch this video because you're going to find out what to look for. But first, here is my website and CoinHELPu community. If you have a question about a coin, come over here and ask your question, put an image front and back. Or if you think you found something that's new or different, you can't find it anywhere, come over here to CONECA, online.org, and you can ask them here. You can join. It's a good organization. You can learn about mint errors, and you have Variety Vista to look at. So let's get back to the Mercury dimes here. So first off, Mercury dimes are known for the 16D and the 42/41 versions of the double die. Those two are the most popular, probably Mercury dimes there is, and they are very valuable. So when you're looking at this, we're over on PCGS price guide, and we use some of their CoinFacts as well. But it shows you a complete set, date set. Okay, $181 in G4. Most of these coins are so circulated, and I'm talking AG, some of them are partial dates, no dates, that it is very difficult, if not impossible, to identify any type of variety. But some of them you can find, and that's what we're going to talk about, those and the ones that you have to basically have a higher grade to really identify it. Now, we're going to look at every one of them, of course. One thing to remember is that not all of these need to be graded, but it's better to have the coin graded so that you have a grade, then you can correlate it with a value on a value price guide. You can be better informed with your buyer or, auctions or however you're going to do that. Also, just because it's full band lines on the back of the torch does not mean it's worth a lot of money, and we'll go over that too. But over here you can see what they're worth, the date mint mark sets, and what grade they're worth. The complete set is basically, if it's a mint state 64, 52,264, it's a complete date and mint mark set. Scrolling down through, you can see how much the 16D is worth, and see how much it's worth in full band lines. Also, in 1917, you got to be mint state 60. It's still only worth $75. So you can see some of them are worth more in the full FB there, but some of them are not worth as much. The earlier ones are worth a lot, especially when you get them in the mint state. You can see the values here. It's better to come over here and look at this. And also you can click on the square with a plus sign, and it'll drop down and it'll show you the varieties to look for. And that's what we're looking at today. That's what we want to focus on. So starting with the 1919, there is a double die FS 101. And obviously, looking at the coin in Fair 2, AG3, this is how much it's worth. It's a very valuable double die that some people are probably not, looking for. It's hard to identify in the lower grades, but this is what it looks like in the circulated grade. Now, I know it kind of looks like strike doubling to some people, but this is literally a little more raised than that. It's a little different, okay? But a little more of a spread. But this is a circulated coin, and this is what happens. You take a double die, and then it circulates, and it almost kind of wears the double features into each other as far as the coin metal just kind of moves slowly, smooths it over from being handled, and it kind of looks like not a traditional or a typical double die. But it is. And like I said, very valuable, and you're looking at an extra fine 45 coin here in the first place. Then a 28S, large S. You come over here and look at the comparison. There are some different S varieties for this, Mercury dimes. And when you're looking at values, mint state 63, it's 365. But you want to go to the lower values. You can always click and see how much it's worth in the lower grades. Is it worth even messing with? 15 bucks. If you find one, you can sell it for $15 versus $2 or $3. Yes, of course. Not worth sending off for grading, but worth finding. Here's a 29S double die FS 101. And typically what we'll do here is you click on this image and then you want to download it, and it's what we did here. So we can look at it a little bit closer. You can see where it's doubled here on the date is one place. But you always want to look at the entire coin and also try to identify any die marks. So what's this one worth? Well, in 53, AU53, almost uncirculated, is $70. And we can go down to the lowest grades, which is typical. What you're going to find is good AG and fine 12 is the grades that you see in a lot of these constitutional rolls, sometimes even lower than that. I mean, sometimes you see a lot of AGs, a lot of slicks in some of the rolls. Now, our rolls, we pull the slicks and we put them in our scratch and dent bags. So our rolls are pretty solid coins, a lot of meat on them, a lot of silver on them. Then a 1931D, this is the double die obverse FS101, and we can look at how much it's worth in the lower grades. The 31D is just a tad bit better anyway, so it's going to be worth a little bit more, but you can see in the lower grades it is worth finding. Very good 8 and G6, $20 and $25. Look at it a little bit closer, see if we can see this. Some of these are not as obvious in the images. I can see a little bit here, but like I said, you just got to look at it really close. It's going to be hard to find. Sometimes you got to look at the lettering. This right here is not double die. That doesn't mean it's a double die. This right here would be, let's see, this is just a little flat from, a lot of times that's a striking anomaly, or it's from a roll crimping machine. Sometimes that can damage it. A little bit of die deterioration where you can see the die striation lines here, and sometimes it'll wear out the die cavity and it'll kind of get mushy and won't strike as well as it should. You'll have that a lot. You'll see that a lot on these dimes because the design is really close to the rim too, so it can get damaged. These rims are raised to help protect the coin so it lasts longer in circulation as well. Then we have the 31S, which is also a little better date. We can see how much this one's worth. It's a double die obverse, and 61, it's 160. And if you go all the way down to the lower grades here, you're looking at, $15. It's not really a lot, $10. And we'll look at an image of it here. I'm going to back up a little bit. Got ahead of myself. Sometimes you have to wait for it to load. It's a little slow sometimes, and I exit out sometimes and then click it again. There it is. So it does show a little bit of the split serifs here. It's not real obvious, so you're going to have to look at this one really close, and when it's circulated, it's going to be difficult to identify. Then we have the 34 D over D, and this one here in the lower grades, you can see, fine 12, very good, $20. And to try to identify it, you want to click on this, and you see a little bit of the, it's kind of hard to see in this image here. You got some strike doubling going on here too, so you got to be careful for that. But these mint marks were hand punch, repunch mint marks. That stopped in 1989. Of course, these were till 1945. So they were all hand punched, and they can vary in orientation. That signifies a die pair, and sometimes they had to repunch the mint mark so that it was more centered or maybe stronger. Sometimes I struck them, or at least punched them weak. And that's what happens with this. That's how you get a RPM. Then we have a 1935 S over S repunch mint mark. It's a FS501. And you can see in 55 it's worth 160. Then we get down to the lower grades. Usually you find it's not going to go any lower than 40. So in 45 it's $115. So there's a chance. I mean, why has there not been any found in the lower grades? I mean, it's a 35. It's a common year, so maybe you'll find one. You just never know. So with it being that, take a look at what it looks like. And a lot of times it's because of the mint marks here. They'll start wearing down. And if the evidence of the repunched mint mark is worn down in the lower grades below 40, extra fine 40, then you're just not going to be able to identify it. You're probably going to be looking at contact marks and things like that. So you got to be careful for that. You really want to watch out. Be smart. Be realistic. So this is a 1936 double die obverse FS101, and in the lower grade you can see what it's worth. In 40 it's 75, in 15 it's 35, all the way down to 6 it's $15. And let's see if we can identify it. Some of these you're just going to have so much difficulty identifying. You can see it right here when it's circulated. But you can come over here to CoinFacts, PCGS price guide, or you can go to CONECA, Variety Vista. It's another place. This one here is an FS110, and they're basically calling it overdate or a class 3 double die. We'll look at it a little bit closer here, but this one in the lower grades It's probably a little undervalued. You don't hear a whole lot about this one, but it's a 1936 S. And in Fine 12, you got 15. Some of these seem to be a little undervalued. This one, it's kind of hard to identify. You have a mark here, and inside the 3, and I had to find this over here on Coin Community. It's the actual cherry pickers version. It shows a little better what you're looking for when you're trying to find this one. But yeah, that's a pretty cool one to find. You don't hear a lot about that. You don't hear a lot about some of these, a few of these. So this is a 37S double die. I mean, if you're surprised to see a lot of these double dies for the Mercury dimes, I mean, don't be, because I mean, most people just don't know this. That's why I do these videos. You can look in your rolls and try to find some of these, especially the ones that you can see in the lower grades when I show you here. So we're looking at a double die verse, like I said, in the 37S, and we're in the higher grades. You can see that obviously 150 bucks. Those are extremely valuable ones, but there are some in the lower grades, and we can look at that. Basically, in very good and G6, 12 bucks. It's not a whole lot of money there in those, but you can click on it to identify it if you want to find a double die. A lot of the more common double dies, they're here. You can see it right here on the 9, are a little easier to find, so you have a chance to find the 37S. But you can see it here, a little thicker at the bottom of the 3. You know, double dies are directional. You know, counterclockwise, clockwise, from the center out. You know, oh, here's some lathe lines you can see here. A lot of die polish lines. That's what you're looking at when you're looking at this. And that's not a mint mark. It's not a W mint mark. West Point Mint was not minting coins or minting Mercury dimes. This is the actual designer initials. It's also something people get confused. And here is a 1939 double die, FS 101. And we can look at the lower grades. It goes down to very fine 20. Probably one of them that's kind of hard to identify with circulation. And it is said it's a double die obverse. So we'll look at the obverse here. It's not that easy to find here. Let's see. We can see some of the details. Yeah, it's one of those that's kind of hard to ID, but you can see it a little bit right in here. So you got to look really close if you got a circulated example. Study it out. Like I said, don't jump to conclusions. It's not really worth a whole lot anyways. Yeah, now we're moving on to the 1939 D over D. And we're talking AU 55 is $35. There's no lower grades for this, at least not by PCGS. So there's another one you might look for in the lower grades. Might be hard to identify though, because like I said, a lot of times the mint mark itself is, let me see here, that's probably going to wear off in lower grades. So it's just going to be so difficult to identify. And then you're going to have debris in here, and people, they'll take a Q-tip or take a little toothpick and try to remove it and look. I mean, you can try it and you can maybe get an expert to look at it, but it's going to be hard to get any validation that you found one of these in the lower grades. Such a minor D over D or RPM. Now this is something interesting. This is a double die obverse and a double die reverse, FS 901. And you would think this one here would be extremely valuable, but you can see in Fine 12 it's $25. It's just not that rare, or at least it's not caught on that it's a thing, something to collect. We can take a look at this. See, usually on the date you can see it. Yeah, you can see the double die here. You see the extra thickness on the 4. That's where that's at. Let's see, there's the die crack here, and then here's the reverse. You can see some of that, and see, there you go again. That's not mean it's double die here. That's just a little flattening. That's where it's close to the rim, but you can see a little bit on the lettering here. Let's see, kind of hard to see it in this these images here. But definitely this is like a little circulation issue, die deterioration, or maybe even from, like I said, a roll crimp. It's not quite damaged the coin yet. A lot of times you'll get damage. It'll really ruin the coin. Then here's a 1940 S over S, and in the lower grades, so we can see what it's worth in 65. It's not extremely rare either. But if you can sell any Mercury dime for over $3, you're doing pretty good, I think. So looking for it, is it worth a lot of time to look for? If you're having fun, it's worth all the time in the world. It does not matter if you're having fun. So we'll take a look at the image here. That's pretty cool. That one might be easier to find. A little more details behind that S there. And we have a 1941D double die verse and reverse again. This is the FS 101. So we'll look at that one closer, but let's take a look at what it's worth. And 63 is the lowest it's showing for the grade. It's kind of odd to think that with all the circulated Mercury dimes out there that there's not a lower example of this one that's found, a lower grade. We'll take a look at it here because it looks like it's, yeah, you can see the lettering's thicker. Maybe that's the issue that people have with it here. Let's try to, you see the T, you can see a little bit there. See a little bit on the E. So this one should be easier to find in the higher grades, you would think. See, I got a little bit of dye deterioration, guys, and that really messes people up. That's what this is right here. You see the dye file lines. You see this right here. That's not the double dye. You want to see more thickening of the letter right in here. You see it a little bit. Like I said, the double dyes are directional. So you have to look at what direction it is, and have to be in one direction. You're seeing all kinds of stuff in different directions on this coin. So it's going to be hard to identify, it looks like, especially if you got a later dye stage. Then we have a 1941 S over S. And this one in 64 is worth 110. And let's see, in the lower grades, 45, it's worth 35. And all the way down to the G6 is 15 bucks. So let's take a look at the image here, see if we can identify it in the lower grades. Like I said, sometimes you have to click off the X and click it again because I've loaded a lot. I've got a lot of images up here and it takes up a lot of loading time. So this is pretty cool if you find this one. It's an obvious S over top. I think it'd be worth a little bit more. Here's an uncirculated example there. Then we move on to the 1941 S over S is another RPM. It doesn't have an example to look at there, but we can look at the values. Find 12. A little bit higher, it's worth a little bit more, but you don't see very many Mercury dimes in extra fine and up in these rolls. So try to look at the lower grades, you know. But here, let's take a look at the mint mark. You can see it's kind of hard to see in this image, but CONECA Variety Vista will have an example. That's where I recommend that you go. The 1941 S, this is the FS 511. This is the large S, and in the lower grades, 25 bucks. I mean, it's worth finding. So let's see. Basically, when you're looking at the large S, you want to look at a normal S. And then this is going to look a little bit bigger. I mean, basically is what you're looking at. Sometimes it's a different font when you're looking at some of these varieties. Then we have this one here. This is the 42/1 overdate. These are the granddaddies. These are the ones that everybody looks for and confuses. We know they're worth several $100s, and even in the low grades, they don't have to be graded. These sell often without being graded, but I would recommend it. But when you're looking at these, you really want to know that there's two different types, first off. And you're looking at a double dye. People want to call them overdates, but they're class 3 double dyes, where they use the different dye date to do the second squeeze. So it's two different squeezes here from two different dyes with two different dates. And you can see it. I mean, this is pretty obvious. The other one's the version is not very obvious. But this one here, the 41 Philadelphia, is really obvious. And then you do have another version, but we're going to go on to the 42 D/D RPM. And you can see in the low grades, 20 bucks. And to look at it closer, let's see if we can see it. You know, can't see it very well in this image. Like I said, CONECA Variety Vista has other images for you. Also, Cherry Picker's Guide. And here's the other version of the 42/1. And this was the Denver mint. So we had two. And what happens is the Philadelphia Mint creates all these dyes and ships them to the respective branch mints. The branch mints, they repunch their mint mark on it. So that's what you have here. Here's the other version of it. This is more difficult in the lower grades to identify. But you are looking for a thickening here, okay, of the 4. So it does look a little different, but that's what you want to look for there. Then we have a 1942 S, inverted mint mark. This one's just going to confuse people. But in the lowest, the one's been graded by PCGS is 64. They're worth a good amount of money, so we're looking for an inverted. You definitely want to look for this one. You can see it. This is what it looks like in the higher grade here. Lower grades, I don't know. I don't have an example. Like I said, I kind of repeat myself. All of these are really worth looking for because if you're in this hobby to have some fun, find something interesting, find a variety because you like this kind of stuff, that's what you do. So there's a 43 S over S RPM. And in the low grades, 12 bucks. High grades, obviously, worth more. And to look at the coin itself, there you can see part of the S behind the other S. Kind of obvious there. I don't know what it looks like in the lower grades. That's going to be the problem. Well, these coins, there's so much die deterioration. I mean, and then you have wear and in circulation issues. I mean, it's not easy. And these mint marks are so tiny. And then you have the Trumpet Tail. We're going to take a look at that. Let's look at the value first. In fine 12, lower grades, 20 bucks. Obviously, it increases in higher grades. And here you can see what it looks like, the Trumpet Tail. A little bit of a difference in the font is what it is. Might as well say font 1, font 2, type 1, type 2. Trumpet Tail is going to be kind of confusing, but it's just a different font. That's what you're looking for. And we have a 1944 D over D FS 501. And a low grades were 10 bucks and up. And to look at the D over D, let's see if it's obvious. Hard to see. See it a little bit here. Mint marks just are going to have anomalies on it. You can have die deterioration around the mint marks. You can have all kinds of little issues on these mint marks. Then we have a 1945 double die FS 101. So we're back to double die here. And the AU58 is the lowest this has been graded. So, like I said, it must not be that obvious. Like I said, it still kind of dumbfounds me that these are not found more often in lower grades, considering how many are out there. But I guess just being able to identify it, being so close to the rim, you can see a little more thickness in the designer initials. You can see it in the 4, but the 4 looks flattened and smashed a little bit too. So identification is going to be the issue, and you definitely want to have someone look at it. And I'm here to tell you, you can post images in our help community, but that's no guarantee that we can help you. Because even these images here, as large as they are and as detailed as they are, it's still difficult. So some of this stuff needs to be seen in hand, and that's just how it is. Then we have a 1945, and this is an RPM FS 501. In the lower grades, very fine 20, 15 bucks. Extra fine 40, $20. And take a look at the mint mark here. And there it is. That's probably pretty obvious. We can probably find that in the lower grades a little easier. Because the wear's coming this way, basically. And lower down. Up in here it may not be as bad. But you know, a lot of these you hardly can see the mint mark on them. You see half mint marks and everything else. That's one of the reasons why the 16D's so confusing at times. Mint marks are altered. Mint marks are messed with. They circulate. You know, that kind of thing. So here is a 1945D over horizontal D. And the low grades G4, it's worth $10, and when you get up to $70 in very fine 35, and up to $100 in AU50. This one really can't really identify in this image, so I went over to CoNECA Variety Vista to try to give you an example, and just to show you there's different RPMs for 45. Here's the 501 we looked at, and here is the horizontal. They don't have an image here. It doesn't look like it loaded. Can refresh the page. There it is. Now we can kind of see it. But anyway, you can click on the link and it'll show you different die stages if they have them. Stage C photos. So you can see it, the horizontal D here. Just do a little research. That's all you have to do if you can't find your image you're looking for. There's all kinds of resources out there. So here's a 45D RPM FS 501. In state 62 is the lowest grade. It's worth $65. And we can click on that and try to look and see if we can see the double die. I mean, you can see a little bit in the 9, but I can see how that would be a problem also whenever it's circulated. You can see some over here. I always look at the motto and the date first. That's typical where you see a lot of it, but then also in the Liberty sometimes. I'm not saying for this one, but just in general. Then we have this one here in the micro S. This is well known. People know there's a really small S on this, and fine 12, it's worth $23. So this one I see being found a lot, and I don't think that it's really, I think it's probably overvalued a little bit myself. Oh, you can take a look at it. It's just, I don't have a comparison here for everybody. But everybody probably kind of knows what that one looks like. You can see that over CoNECA, Variety Vista, or basically anywhere. So anyways, here's my website, portswithcoinshop.com. If you like this video and want to support this channel, please come over to portswithcoinshop.com and maybe add a coin to your collection, or maybe buy some bullion or a graded coin. And we'll have our auctions up today, so be looking out for those. So I hope this video helped you. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something. I know that I even learned some things myself. It helps me out to brush up on a lot of this stuff. Makes me excited. Makes me want to look at my Mercury dimes. I won't do that. I don't have the time. But anyways, thanks for watching my latest video. Please like, share, and comment, and have a great day.